woman was sure that her husband was cheating on her by having an affair with the maid, so she laid down a trap. One evening, she sent the maid home for the weekend and didn't tell her husband. That night, when they went to bed, the husband gave the same old story. "Excuse me, my dear, my stomach aches." He then went into the bathroom. The wife promptly ran down the hall, got into the maid's bed, and switched the lights off. Soon, she heard footsteps, then felt him get into bed with her. After some passionate love-making, she said suddenly, "I bet you didn't expect to find me in this bed, did you?" Then she switched the light on. "No, madam," said the gardener. There was a farmer who grew watermelons. He was doing pretty well, but he was disturbed by some local kids who would sneak into his watermelon patch at night and eat his watermelons. After some careful thought, he came up with a clever idea that he thought would scare the kids away for sure. He made up a sign and posted it in the field. The next night, the kids showed up and they saw the sign, which read, "Warning, one of the watermelons in this field has been injected with cyanide." The kids ran off, made up their own sign, and posted it next to the farmer's. When the farmer returned, he surveyed the field. He noticed that no watermelons were missing, but the sign next to his read, "Now there are 2. A big city lawyer went duck hunting in rural North Alberta. He shot and dropped a bird, but it fell into a farmer's field on the other side of a fence. As the lawyer climbed over the fence, an elderly farmer drove up on his tractor and asked him what he was doing. The lawyer responded, "I shot a duck, and it fell in this field, and now I'm going to retrieve it." The old farmer, Peter, replied, "This is my property, and you are not coming over here." The indignant lawyer said, "I am one of the best trial lawyers in Canada, and if you don't let me get that duck, I'll sue you and take everything you own." The old farmer smiled and said, "Apparently, you don't know how we settle disputes in Alberta. We settle small disagreements like this with the 3-kick rule." The lawyer asked, "What is the 3-kick rule?" The farmer replied, "Well, because the dispute occurs on my land, I get to go first. I kick you 3 times, and then you kick me 3 times, and so on, until someone gives up." The lawyer thought about the proposed contest and decided that he could easily take the old codger, so he agreed to abide by the local custom. The old farmer slowly climbed down from the tractor and walked up to the attorney. His first kick planted the toe of his heavy steel-toed work boot into the lawyer's groin and dropped him to his knees. His second kick to the midriff sent the lawyer's last meal gushing from his mouth. The lawyer was on all fours when the farmer's third kick to his rear end sent him face first into a fresh cow pie. Summoning every bit of his will and remaining strength, the lawyer very slowly managed to get to his feet. Wiping his face with the arm of his jacket, he said, "Okay, you old fart. Now it's my turn." The old farmer smiled and said, "You can have the duck." One day, a young boy notices a beautiful girl across the street. He walks over to her and strikes up a conversation. After they hit it off, he runs home and excitedly tells his dad the news. "Dad, I just got to know this amazing girl across the street. She lives really close by, and her name is Emma. I really like her." The father winces and looks at him. "Son, I'm sorry to tell you this, but Emma is actually your sister. I had a fling with the neighbor before I began to date your mother." Dejected, the boy leaves the room and cuts off all communication with the girl. A month goes by, and the boy meets another girl named Sophie. They flirt with each other, find out she lives down the street then. The boy goes back home to tell his father. The father winces again. "Sorry, son, but Sophie is actually your sister as well." In the middle of his explanation, the boy storms out of the room and leaves the house to take a breather. While cutting off all communication with Sophie, 3 months later, the boy meets the most beautiful girl he's ever seen, prettier than the last 2 girls combined. He finds out her name is Brooke and rushes home after exchanging numbers. The boy busts into his father's room. "Dad, I met this girl named Brooke, and she lives only few streets away. Before I tell you about her, is she your daughter too?" A moment goes by, and the boy begins to hope that this girl is finally the one. The father just winces. The boy leaves the room and goes to sit in the living room to cool down. After a few hours, his mother sits down next to him and asks, "Honey, what's wrong? You've been very sad lately." In tears, the boy turns to his mother. "I'm upset because over the last few months, I've met 3 amazing girls. And every single time, Dad's told me that they're actually my sisters." The mother looks bewildered and begins to laugh. "Mom, why are you laughing?" asks the boy. "Oh, honey," replies his mother, "don't worry about a thing. You can go ahead and date any of those girls." The boy makes a face of disgust and disbelief. "Why would I want to date any of my father's daughters?" The mother smiles and says, "Because, honey, he isn't actually your father." A married couple is driving down the interstate doing 55 miles per hour with the husband behind the wheel. His wife looks over at him and says, "Honey, I know we've been married for 15 years, but I want a divorce." The husband says nothing, but slowly increases his speed to 60 miles per hour. She then says, "I don't want you to try to talk me out of it, because I've been having an affair with your best friend, and he's a better lover than you." Again, the husband stays quiet and just speeds up as his anger increases. She says, "I want the house." Again, the husband speeds up and is now doing 70 miles per hour. She says, "I want the kids too." The husband just keeps driving faster and faster. Now he's up to 80 miles per hour. She says, "I want the car, the checking account, and all the credit cards too." The husband slowly starts to veer toward a bridge overpass piling as she says, "Is there anything you want?" The husband says, "No, I've got everything I need." She asks, "Really? What's that?" As he veers the car off the road at 90 miles per hour, he replies, "The airbag." An elderly woman is riding in an elevator on her way to a doctor's appointment. Suddenly, the elevator stops and a beautiful young woman, smelling of expensive perfume, steps in. She turns to the old woman and says arrogantly, "Giorgio Beverly Hills 100 an ounce." On the next floor, another young beautiful woman gets into the elevator. She also smells of expensive perfume. She arrogantly turns to the old woman and says, "Chanel No. 5, $150 an ounce." About 3 floors later, the old woman has reached her destination and is about to get off the elevator. Before she leaves, she looks back at the women, passes gas, and says, "Broccoli, 50 cents a pound." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.